So, question I have is around how does this model align with the Vedic understanding of Samkhya, which Maharishi was a big proponent of, and in Samkhya very clearly states that creation is a formulation of both Purusha consciousness and Prakriti, which is the source of nature, and it's very clear it has no direction and no agenda in its primordial state, therefore no consciousness, and the two are together. So how does this fit in with that concept?
Well, the second part you said was the Prakriti?
Yes.
Yeah. The Prakriti, I would look at in the theory as the expression is conscious. And Maharishi says it's natural for consciousness to observe itself. It's in its nature. And that expression in the axiom, consciousness is conscious, is saying that the nature of consciousness is to be conscious. And the Purusha value is just the statement, consciousness exists, consciousness is all there is. And if we ended there, it would be pure, unbounded, absolute, unmanifest, with no dynamism. And the axiom is one axiom. You know, you think, well, why didn't he have three axioms? But it's one axiom because you cannot separate consciousness from its nature to be conscious. Does that answer your question?
It seems to be a little bit like on the fundamental level, consciousness has that self-referral quality of itself.
Right.
And then the nature has more of kind of this expansive quality of just kind of see.
Yeah. So there's the consciousness, which unmanifest absolute, you know. And then consciousness is conscious. That is what manifests or creates a bit of consciousness. And that's when the process of expansion, of creation begins. Consciousness observes itself. Then you have something. You have this first bit of consciousness. And then that consciousness can observe that bit of consciousness. That bit of consciousness can observe itself. That bit of consciousness could observe consciousness. And then you start this whole rigmarole of this looks at this looks at this. And as soon as you have one thing looking at something, then you have a new bit of consciousness, and that bit of consciousness can get involved. And so by the time we get tables and chairs and people, that process has effectively gone on for so many levels that we just don't see it anymore. We've forgotten about it. You know, we see the surface value, but we don't see all the steps of creation.
Okay.
This is a good direction if you want to continue.
We could, but yeah. Another question is, do you see it as something that creation is spontaneous in itself, or that there is a creator? So Maharishi spoke clearly about Brahma. There's a divine beings, there's creators that created creation in an intelligent way, and so, and you know that are at the junction point between the absolute and in creation, which we're experiencing, which has the formulation of consciousness and nature together. So how do you understand the role of Brahma in this design?
That is further down the line from this. And in the paper, I just did one axiom, and the paper, every time I read it, I go, oh my goodness, there's so much more here. And he does talk about God in the paper, and he does talk about higher states of consciousness and how these can be understood. He also talks about how a bit of consciousness can give rise to other things, and we call that a mode. And that things can give rise to other things. But at the most fundamental level, there's just this consciousness that by its own nature, not by anything else external to it, and I think you could even call its own nature as God, if that makes any sense. But by its own nature, nothing other than it spontaneously creates. But do look at the paper. I encourage you to do that. Thank you.